Got to be birds flying higher in the sky. Oh boy, now that it's starting to become spring again, every time I see a bird, I just get excited because I love me some birds. And yeah, let's return to a bird-filled album. Birds by Karfagen. So Karfagen is a Ukrainian progressive rock band, kind of following in the retro prog outfit. They really, for me, came onto the scene pretty hard just at the end of the 2010s. Loved their Echoes from Within Dragon Island. That's a little bit of a mouthful. As well as Messages from Afar, First Contact. Then what really kind of rocketed them onto the scene was the 2020 album of Birds of Passage, as well as their, next big hit, because they put out 3 albums that year, Sandpaper Symphony, Principles and Theory of Septra, I believe is how you pronounce that. And then last year they put out Land of Green and Gold. The showrunner for this one is Anthony Kalusian, which has his own kind of side projects and whatnot. And this one happens to be one of them. And so very prolific, very busy. And Birds is the kind of reworking a little bit of their 2020 album of Birds of Passage. It provides a much more instrumental and streamlined version of that album. Birds of Passage having, Birds of Passage Part 1 and 2, and then Spring, Sunrise, and Birds Short Introduction. I love that album. I really enjoyed a lot of the different flavors that we had on there. I love the symphonic soundscapes that we had on it. Very cheerful retro prog, which is one of my favorite expressions of retro prog. And it was just an all-around good time. So when I heard that they were going to be releasing Birds, which is a little bit of a reworking of that record, it's a purely instrumental version of Birds of Passage with different kind of plays on some of the different themes. And again, you have Birds Part 1, a Birds piano intermezzo, and then Birds 2, 3, The Day Is Done, and then finishing off with Birds Short Introduction. And one of the things that I do appreciate with this one is some of the reworkings of some of the ideas that are on it. One of the things that I love about retro prog is their build-ups and their big payoffs and crescendos. And this album and this group knows where those moments are and plays around with it and tries different things to really elevate those big crescendo moments. And my favorite moments from Birds of Passage are played around with a couple of times on this one. So it's not just a one and done aspect. They're played around a couple of times, and that was found on Birds Part 2 and then later on in Birds Part 3. So I really enjoy, and I think this is such a fascinating idea, where a band goes and reworks an album and tinkers with it a little bit, because there is something about, a album that is finalized and finished, but then there's also this idea that an album is always in flux. An album is always doing something different. Every time you come down to an album to sit down and listen to it, it changes just slightly because you are a different person. It's kind of like you can't step in the same river twice. And so I like the fact that with this album, they kind of manifest that entirely. It's just a joy to hear. I think they improve upon quite a bit from Birds of Passage, and that album already was such a delight and such a treat that, playing around with it a little bit more, it only elevates the music that much more. So yeah, if you've heard Birds of Passage, you got to check out Birds. They really were doing something very, very fun with this one. Unfortunately, I don't really have too much else to say about this album because if you've watched my Birds of Passage review, you kind of know what I'm thinking about. They don't really add anything brand new to it. They don't add a whole lot of new music to it. It really is just a lot of reworkings of the music that they were already putting down in 2020. So I like the fact that, they don't tinker too much with the formula. All the numbers are still in place. They're just rearranging it a little bit. They're just, adding and subtracting a little bit here and there, but they're not bringing anything entirely new to the project. So on the one hand, I can see people being a little bit disappointed with this because there isn't really anything new on it. But on the other hand, I can see people really coming towards this album and really getting rewarded from it because, it plays around a little bit and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I will say that Birds from Karfagen, I would absolutely pick up in physical format. You know, it's a great time. It's an absolutely great time. I love this band. I love this music. And how can you go wrong? You know, this is a recommendation for me. If you haven't heard of Karfagen or any of their music before, this is a great starting point. If you're into longer tracks, if you're into longer compositions, you're going to get rewarded from it. I think this is a great place to start. And then go back and listen to all their other works because, man, great stuff. Great stuff. But yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. Quick and easy. Yeah, that's all I got. So what do you guys think about this album? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And yeah, that's all I've got. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.